diseases that can be potentially treated by actually using a technology where you basically silence the expression of the protein that is the target of the prion. But I don't know if that's something that they can really count on in most cases. Like, if you silence that protein, it probably doesn't function. We might not even know what it is yet.
Oh, yeah.
But if you silence it in the brain, what is another thing?
Oh, yeah, who knows? It sounds like you're playing with such a delicate little network of systems that is like a life form.
Yep.
Maybe you take one little thing out, who knows?
So in the case of karma, though, this has actually got me thinking of could you be reincarnated into a biomolecule as opposed to an organism itself?
Excellent question.
I don't know, like,
maybe not.
I always like to think of it as if it were the case that you'd start out like that, and then if you were a good boy, you got to be a fucking, tadpole or something.
Okay.
And if you're a good tadpole, you get to be a little fucking...
So what you're saying that maybe like the spiritual equivalent of life, it mirrors the spiritual evolution of life mirrors the biological evolution of life. In some
it may as well.
Yeah, I've always
you
wondered,
just gain a little more self-awareness each time.
Yeah, I always wondered in the event of karmic or reincarnative like processes, if like what gets sent where, if you know what I mean, like how much of each like chunk, I guess, or unit of consciousness or like piece, soul nugget, whatever you want to call it. How much, like what, like to what degree does it get like cast, you know what I mean, or like spread, as opposed to like, I doubt it's as black and white as I was a dog last time, now I'm a cat, or whatever the fuck, right? And so I don't know.
Yeah, there's certain I'm most familiar with some Indian ones, but even still not to the point where I could like give a presentation and compare them or anything, but certain cosmologies definitely go quite in depth with their theories about different aspects of the psyche and things, and how it all gets, describing how each layer falls away when you're dying and how it disperses and all these things. And there's that part of you that's just pure consciousness that when you die, it's not like it closes off, but rather it expands, and that right now you're just this funneled in, focused, specific thing, and then when you die, you just return to the pool, more grandiose, the pool. Yeah.
Source pool.
You ever listen to much Terrence McKenna stuff?
Oh yeah. Love that guy.
I like his theory, like, and it's not really necessarily something I believe, but like my idea of life is that it's definitely like kind of more like structured science rooted, but it's like just the evolution and the change of energy. Like it's almost like life is an equation. Energy has to go somewhere. Everything that exists has like a potential to be something, but it's under a certain set of possible outcomes, and those things are, under influenced by other things that are possible outcomes, and that can be scary to some people. They can just think, well, this is bothersome to think that life is like perfectly dialed in and it's going to be an exact way. We'll never know this way, and so there's still a mystery, right? But I liked how his theory, and you might have seen him talking about it, because he goes on about it in every fucking talk. But it's like this singularity.
Oh yeah.
That everything has like an energetic potential, and we're all drawn towards the singularity of the future.
The great attractor.
The great attractor at the end of time. That's what he calls it. But it kind of makes sense in one way, because everything, like the way he looks at like the universe forming, is it came out of almost nothing and exploded into great complexities, and everything's been continuously complexifying over time.
You talk about novelty a lot.
Yeah, exactly, right? That's his novelty theory, that things are reaching a great complexity. But at the same time, this great complexity is everything in existence eventually becoming the same thing, and almost kind of like closing that loop from the beginning of time.
That would really meld well with the whole Big Bang, Big Crunch ad nauseum, like infinite,
Yeah.
like
Mm-hmm.
breathing or whatever.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be crazy?
Yeah.
If all of existence was just some super fucked up entity's like left lung.
Right?
Yeah.
Just like,
My only like trouble with his theory is that it's all from human perspective.
right.
Like the universe is
Yeah.
only complexifying from our perspective. Like it's potentially not complexifying.
What if it's just always been this complex?
Yeah, and that's maybe we just slowly but surely kind of chipping away at the block, and it's like, oh wow, there's more here than we had initially thought.
Like
Yeah.
a lot of his theory has a basis, and he admits this himself, has a basis in our own complexities as an organism. Like just following the evolution of life forms on our planet. It makes sense that things are here to complexify. If you just look at our Earth started as something pretty simple, single-celled organisms, like different types of fungal,
hot rocks and salt water,
or whatever, right? And things just became more complex from there. It seems like life has this natural propensity to complexify. And so why is it complexifying?
Yeah.
Why is that? And the simple questions like, why are we moving towards further complexity? Why are we moving forward at all? Why are things why is the result of an action in the future? Why aren't we moving from the result back to the causal aspect of that result? So to him, he needs to find reason for why things are complexifying, and he says that you can do this just by eating a pile of mushrooms and sitting in nature. It's obvious to him what's happening and why it's happening, and I've definitely experienced that myself. So.
I feel like you can catch glimpses of that reality in a sense. You have that sort of atmosphere where you're just taking mushrooms on LSD.
Have any of you guys read any Carlos Castaneda?
No.
Well,
Should we?
yeah, I can't hurt. I don't know, man. It's funny. I'd heard of him before because he's just one of those kind of guys that kind of cropped up in the '60s or '70s and the kind of borderline floofy new agey type occult hippy dippy whatever you want to call it stuff. And I should really, call it that outright.
I was going to ask, what would you call it?
That's what I'm saying. A lot of it is fluff, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a lot of merit.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't have to be negative.
Exactly. It's like this. It's that way with anything, I think. You got to find the positive aspects of any.
You have to be the thing that is the mode of critique.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Exactly.
And then you take anything that you encounter and shift through it.
Totally.
And you want to be an ideological shitbird when you just immediately
discredit it. Yeah.
Or blindly accept things that just validate
Absolutely.
your presumptions.
But yeah, basically, the book I read of his was called. What was it called? It might have just been called Don Juan. Don Juan. A Yaqui Way of Knowledge. But basically, and the foreword, or the prologue, whatever you want to call it, that the publisher, whoever it was, the associate, the scholar, he was basically delved into Carlos Castaneda's life, and a little bit, obviously, just a bit, but basically what he was getting at in the foreword was just and what it really reminded me of was guys like, I don't know, Graham Hancock, because for all intents and purposes, or maybe even McKenna, for all intents and purposes, the things they're studying, quote unquote, or trying to study or figure out, are for by and large technically classified as pseudoscience. Yeah. Technically, considered shrugged off. It's well, you can't. There's no empirical, statistical, So the tendency is to shrug it off, but
proof doesn't exist in that realm. So
that's what, and that's basically, and that's exactly. That's basically the problem that everyone who tries to like guys like Hancock or Castaneda or McKenna run into is like when you try and approach it empirically, or like, and he did, like Castaneda did it, like the last half or like quarter-ish of the book is his like report to the culture archaeological whatever university program he was in California at Berkeley or whatever. And you know, like, there's stuff that goes on in that book that defies a lot of what one would consider ordinary anything. Like it like throws like it threw like I've done like I've done psychedelics before, but I still encountered things in that book that I was like, wait, seriously? Like this guy, this Don Juan, for all intents and purposes, was literally just like a real shaman in the sense of like he might as well be a wizard. Yeah. Like he's just a shaman. He's like, yep, kill this lizard, like take out its eyes, sew up the eyes, like put it in this pot, boil it, rub this paste from this flower. Like it was so meticulous. Like everything about that, like the whole like, basically I can't remember. I think it was because Castaneda wanted to study the native cultures of like he was from California, but he went down into Mexico, and I'm not sure if they were Aztec or Mesa. I think they're called
Canada did a bit of that too.
Yeah, I think they're called. I think the specific tribe Don Juan was an ancestor of, or whatever his lineage was Yaqui or whatever. But basically, you know, he just wanted to study, and so like a friend of a friend or whatever introduced him to this guy, and he just apprenticed under him basically for like a year or two or however long it actually was. And yeah, it's a great book. For all intents and purposes, he's a damn wizard. I mean, that's glossing it over, obviously, but I just, you know, it's really interesting.
I like the like McKenna's way of talking about like proving or disproving something. And he kind of looks at like the way we see the world as a program, and not necessarily that it's like a program that's always downloaded or that we completely learn from like nurture or environmental factors, but like it's a program we were born with in a way. Like the way our mind works, like for most people anyway, is we're basically all kind of programmed in a certain way. So when it comes to like actually talking about the proof of something's existence, well, all of our minds being programmed in a certain way, viewing a certain thing happening, then we all agree that this is in existence. But as soon as you change the programming of someone's mind, all of a sudden they don't see this thing. Or they just see this thing in a completely other type of way. And all of a sudden, everyone else is programmed a certain way. It says you're a quack, or you're, you know, you don't, like you have something wrong with you in a sense, right? And not to say it like, and he would never say that we all have something wrong with us, like we have bad programming, but like, you know, it's definitely true that like there's social programming, cultural programming, and we all kind of assume this, and we assume life is a certain way and it has to be a certain way. But what if it's as deep as us viewing the material world as a programming? You know, what if like if you change that program, all of a sudden dimensional space completely changes from our perspective, right? So for him, for a person who takes psychedelics or like deep meditation, like practice meditation for a long time, like it can really, like for a moment, the way your brain is wired changes, and all of a sudden you're actually experiencing the world, some might say in the wrong way, but who's to say?
Yeah.
Right? Maybe you're just experiencing the world exactly how it is in a different way. Now, when you're tripping out and all of a sudden, like, you know, non-existent things start walking through the doorway, well, Is that real? I don't know.
Yeah,
What
those
is
things always
reality?
been around,
Yeah,
and
right.
I can't see them.
Yeah, so
You start to wonder.
yeah, but